Credo in unum Deum, Patrem omnipotentem, Factorem celi et terrae, visibilium omnium, et invisibilium.
Et in unum Dominum Iesum Christum, Filium Dei unigenitum,
Et ex Patre natum, ante omnia saecula.
Deum de Deo, lumen de lumine, Deum verum de Deo,
Remissionem peccatorum.
Good evening, dear TV friend, and welcome to yet another edition of Understanding Church History. With me, your humble servant, Father Cletus Aka. Today, we shall be discussing on a very important topic, the missionaries and the evangelization of British Southern West Cameroon. And it should be noted that last Sunday, Holy Mother Church celebrated the solemnity of Mary, principal patroness of Cameroon and Queen of the Apostles. And that was the inception of the Holy Catholic Church in Cameroon, whereby in 1890, the Holy Father Pope Leo XIII asked the Palatine missionaries to make a missionary journey to Cameroon. And immediately the superior general of the Palatine Father thought of Father Henry Vieta, who was of course in Brazil for a mission. So when he was appointed, he came back to Rome. And when he arrived at Rome, the Holy Father blessed him and his mission was given to come to Cameroon. And immediately on the 22nd of October, they set for this unknown journey to Africa and Cameroon respectively. So when the missionaries, who were 8 of them in number, 2 priests and 6 brothers. So when they began this missionary journey to Cameroon, they arrived Fernando Po. And of course, the ship that they used was very heavy due to so many items that they bought in order to be used in Cameroon. So when they arrived Fernando Po, they had to unload these things into the sea. And when they finally got to Cameroon, they went to Berdorf in the quarters of King Bell and King Aqua, respectively. So there they celebrated the first ever Mass in Cameroon. And that Mass was celebrated on Monday, 26th of October, 1890. When they celebrated that first Mass in Cameroon, the next day they made a journey to Boya. And when they met the Roman governor at that time, Jesco von Puttkamer asked the missionaries, where do you think that you can establish the church? And they said, Edea. So he advised them that no, Edea has been occupied by the Protestants, because before then, the London Baptist missionaries were already in Cameroon, and followed by the American Presbyterian, and thirdly, the Holy Roman Catholic Church that was coming in 1890. So when the missionaries led by Reverend Father Henry Vieta made their way to Edea, when they got to Edea, they met a certain king in Edea known as King Toko. King Toko, on his part, gave them a piece of land, and they established a church in Edea. And On the 8th of December 1890, they celebrated Mass in Mariamberg, the Hill of Mary. And during that Mass, Cameroon was consecrated into the hands of the Blessed Virgin Mary. That was the arrival of the Holy Roman Catholic Church in Cameroon in 1890, led by the Palatine Fathers. So from 1890 right up to 1914, with the escalation of the First World War, the Palatines had to end their mission in Cameroon because they were working under the German colonial administrators and administration. So when Germany was defeated during the war, everything concerning Germany had to leave Cameroon. So the Palatines left for Equatorial Guinea or Rio Moni at that time. So from 1916, when the war ended in Cameroon, to 1922, there was no priest in Cameroon, in British Southern Cameroon, to be precise. And at that time, the region was managed by the catechist Ephrem Sango Matthias of Bojongo, and many other catechists from Com, Lebialem, and Bansol land. Participating in the program are the following deliberate members and fervent participants. On my left, I have Mr. Elvis Bati. Welcome, Mr. Elvis.
Thank you very much, Father, and televiewers of Divine Mercy Radio and Television. It's just befitting and divine providence that we'll be talking about this aspect of the church, when the church in Cameroon, as you highlighted in your intro, was celebrating the year, remembering the year the Palatine Fathers dedicated Cameroon to the Blessed Virgin Mary. So I'm sure that with the few that we're going to add this evening, it is going to enlighten our Christians to understand how the faith in the Diocese of Boya was laid down and how it has grown.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bate. And on my right, of course, I have the secular historian. I call him the secular historian, who is becoming a church historian, Mr. Cliff Awa from Bumaka. Welcome, Mr. Cliff.
Thank you very much, Father Cletus Saka. It's always a pleasure to be here. Of course, this is a very crucial point in the history of the Diocese of Boya, where we are tracing the deposit of the faith, how it has been sustained up till this period when we are preparing for the celebration of the 75th anniversary. And of course, it's a great delight to be a contributor to this historic moment in the life of the Diocese of Boya. Thank you very much, Father Cletus.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cliff Hour. Of course, it is worth noting that our viewers should understand that we decided to stop from original church history and to concentrate on the Cameroon church history because we are in the context of the 75th anniversary of the Diocese of Boya. We shall have a 5-second break. When we come back, we shall begin with the program.
Genitum novatum consubstantialem Patri perquem omnia facta sunt
Qui propter nos homines et propter nostram salute
et incarnatus est.
Welcome back, dear TV friend. If you are just tuning in, we are on to the program Understanding Church History, and the topic for today is the missionaries and the evangelization of British Southern West Cameroon from 1922 to 1916. From 1922 following, Mr. Bate, you realize that many people don't really know the meaning of Mihir. They just call it Mihir. And of course, I don't think that is the real name of that congregation.
Yes, Father, thank you. I think that most of us are familiar with the appellation Mihir Missionaries, Mihir Missionaries. But I would like this evening to emphasize that the society is called St. Joseph's Missionary Society of Mihir, founded in 1866 by Herbert Alfred Wolfgang, who was then the Cardinal Archbishop of Westminster in England. Now, when the Fallottine fathers left Cameroon, like you said, the faith was in the hands of the catechist. Okay. Then now, for the period that the catechist managed the Christians, Rome approached Father Francis Henry, asking him if he would send missionaries to British Cameroon. After consideration, Father Francis accepted and sent the following first Mihir fathers to British Cameroon. They included Father Camplin, Father Robinson, Father Michael Moran, and Father William Kelly. On the 26th of March 1922, their ship that set sail some months before that date arrived Victoria. And when they arrived Victoria, that the four priests came to begin their mission. Father Camplin was appointed a bishop and was sent back to Uganda, and he was replaced by Father Peter Rogan. Then they continued with their work, which Boya already, as we already said in the past edition, that Boya was a vicariate during that period. Now, Father Peter Rogan was appointed a perfect apostolic, what we can call in our present day term, apostolic administrator of the vicariate of Boya, to manage the faith. And in 1950, the vicariate was raised to a full-fledged diocese. Now, there's a gap there, but I will bring back our listeners. As I said at the beginning, that it is called the St. Joseph Society of Mihir, we realize that there are institutions today in this diocese that carry their name. And when I was reflecting, I realized that it's either they named their school, because they were so, their charism was more like in the school and in the church. Unlike other congregations that will be involved with health, they focus more on schools and the teaching of the handing on of the faith. So in 1933, Father Anthony Van de Velde opened a mission station at Okoyong, present day Okoyong. Then, when he saw that the faith was growing, they continued their journey. They went up to Mbeta in 1936 and opened another mission station. And they named the mission station St. Teresa of the Child Jesus. They came back to Fako, and then in 1939, climbed up the hill where we have present-day Sase, and opened the St. Joseph College in Sase to train young Cameroonians both in the faith and to be able to read and write, so that they could be mentally and academically strong, so that when they depart, they know that they are living the faith in the hands of those who can read and write, those who can transmit the faith to their fellow brothers. Because when they came, they realized that the people were not actually learned, they were not schooled, they were so glued to their African culture and tradition. Then they set up that college, and today the college is still, we have it in history as one of the oldest college in English Cameroon. So from there, they now proceeded to
Mamfe Okoyong, from Okoyong, Jinicom, from Jinicom they went down to Bamenda, to Nso. So their journey was so profound that we cannot really name it chronologically. Mr. Clifford, you discover that considering the fact that the church is missionary in her very nature, and with the influence of a maximum elite, an apostolic letter written by Pope Benedict XV, and in from 1922, he encouraged the missionaries to train local clergy in order to manage the situation themselves. You realize that British Southern West Cameroon was without priest for 6 years because we had no local clergy. If at that time they were training local clergy, I think this would have happened. So therefore, Pope Benedict XV encouraged the missionaries, especially in this encyclical Maximum Illud, that missionaries should make sure that they train local clergy. And looking at the coming of missionaries to Cameroon, can you bring out their humble beginning, because it was not easy for them, I would think?
You are very correct, Father Claire Tusaka, and like Mr. Bati rightly established, that the St. Joseph Missionary Society was founded by Father Herbert Vaughan, and he was ordained at the age of 22. It was particularly under him that he had this devotion, or this devotion to create overseas missions, and so in that he had this vigor, but though he was not very strong because of ill health, so he was assisted by other friends like Cardinal Wiseman and Cardinal Manning, who were always there to support him. And so when during their epoch in Cameroon, like we have rightly seen that they got in the country about 1922, during that epoch in the country, they did a lot of work, which Mr. Bati had already highlighted some of them. But of course, we must know that it was very challenging for them from this very beginning. It was very challenging because they had to trek. There were problems of transportation, tropical diseases, amongst others, confrontations amongst others. But that notwithstanding, they were able to teach the catechism and then open catechetical centers. They also opened primary and secondary schools, like he has mentioned, those he has called precisely, and then they erected many teachers training college. These were all in a bid to bring to full capacity people who will be able to read and write, in other words, to become as translators or interpreters from the English language to the local language of the people, especially the vernacular, which most of the people could understand at that time. That is why you saw them opening these training centers and then schools, colleges and primary schools, so that in each of these areas people could be taught how to read and write, so that they can better get to their own people and then preach the gospel. We don't know how effective that was, but remember that the faith still goes on. If it was not effective, it means that the faith wouldn't have been existing. It means that the translation was actually good, up to the point that people were actually convinced to know that there is a God. And bear in mind, Father Clay Tusaka, that the Mihils did not intend to stay in Cameroon. They did not intend to stay in Cameroon forever. And recording or coding for Maximum Illud, they also had at hand to train indigenous priests who would take over from them. And of course, a magazine was established in 2016 which had this to say: right from the very beginning, the Mihil missionaries directed all their energies resolutely and single-handedly towards one goal, namely the growth to maturity and self-reliance of a local church with its own diocesan clergy. End of quote.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cliff. Let me come in there. You see, the Mihi missionaries are coming from England.
Of course.
And, remember during the time of annexation and colonization in Cameroon, the British brought the indirect rule policy.
Yeah.
And indirect rule was meant to prepare the people for independence and self-governance. And not unlike assimilation by the French. Now, you can see where that is coming from.
Of course.
And we realize that Mr. Cliff, the first team that made up of Father William Camplin, as Mr. Avis mentioned already, Father Benedict Robinson, Michael Moran, and William O. Kelly arrived Victoria on Sunday, March 25th, 1922. And Robert Oner, in his book, The Mihi Missionaries in Cameroon, described their arrival as such. 4 priests stood silently in the sanctuary of St. Nicholas Pro Cathedral at Liverpool, England. They wore black cassocks and red sash round their waist, and held crucifixes in their hands. It was familiar to them because they have been in so many journeys. A bishop and 9 brothers at St. Peter's Seminary led the singing. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him that bringeth good news. These are men leaving Europe to Africa without knowing where they are going to, but they were happy and they were singing. Mr. Pate, just looking at the coming of the missionaries in Cameroon, you saw the enthusiasm. Can it be compared to indigenous priests, especially when soon transfer will come out in all the dioceses of the English-speaking Cameroon, ecclesiastical province of Bamenda? Do you think that most people always accept it with joy? Because it's time that people always say, well, Father Ashia, why Bishop do you so?
Well, Father, I will laugh at this because I'll look at it in two standpoints. The time they came and the time of our contemporary priests are not the same. But the enthusiasm, the faith in them, the zeal that they had with our present day priests, I'm sorry to say, can never be matched. It's not the same. Because today, they came, they did not think of cars, they did not think of anything, the luxury. They were just excited. First, they had, I'm sure in their mind, they are thinking that they are going to discover a new place. And they are going to take the faith. I'm sure in their mind, they equally had that they are going to be the first person that history will have it that they planted the seed. But today, we the Christians don't help our priests because immediately they say, oh, Father Cletus is going to Ikasa. The next thing somebody will call after mass in Bumaka is that
Bishop hate you so.
What you do, Bishop? Nana so you come Bumaka in my state. We don't say they enjoy they remove you. Or they say in those days that we used to have Ikasa, Isangele, those were considered as punishment parishes in the early days. But I think that there are some, we cannot just say all of them, there are some of our priests that have that enthusiasm and they live the word of the gospel, which Samuel said, yet am I, Lord, I've come to do your will. So I'm ready to go anywhere. But like your question put it, the enthusiasm is not the same. We pray, like the priests keep advising us that we should pray that they should. In the seminary, there's something they always tell the priests. Remember to to detach from the finest and the nearest. So I think that when transfer come out, this should it should ring a bell in you that you were told during your formation that you should be ready to detach from the finest and the nearest. Because when you detach from the finest, like a comfortable parish and friends that you have made, and maybe closer to town life, and then you are going out to a parish where maybe you have to steam the generator before it starts. Sometimes fuel is not there, you don't have cable to be watching your matches or what other kind of things. So the enthusiasm between the missionaries in the early days that were coming to Cameroon is not even the word that they themselves expressed. So there was a lot of joy in them. But today, I think some of our priests don't take it to heart that it's the work of the evangelization they are doing.
Thank you very much. You are just tuning in. You are on to the program Understanding Church History, and the topic for today is the missionaries and the evangelization of British Southern West Cameroon. And we have the number there on your screen. You can send in your contributions, you can ask questions and your reactions concerning the works of the missionaries in the 1922 right up to today, because we still have them in our midst. Mr. Cliff Hour, looking at the coming of let me go back to Mr. Bate. Looking at the difficulties faced by the missionaries, especially communication difficulties. Yeah, in those days of Archbishop Paul Vezekov and Bishop Pius Suawa, there was a policy in the St. Thomas Aquinas Major Seminary that before you are ordained a priest, at least you must speak at least 5 different vernaculars. It wasn't easy for those who studied at that time. Some of us, French is even killing us. And then talk about studying in Bambui, Banso, Bafut, and why not Ngolo Bolo and so on. So looking at these guys were coming to Cameroon where native language was at the apex. And they were coming in with English language, which was strange to the people. How did they manage? How did they manage to penetrate and to bring the gospel that they brought for us?
Father, these people first of all came, they tried to identify themselves with the locals. I will use an example of a missionary who works in this diocese and then later on Manfred diocese, Father Arnold Van Hoven. When he came to Manfred, you realize that if he keeps himself as Father Arnold Van Hoven, like he used to preach and say it in the villages, maybe he will not achieve his goal or his mission will not be successful. He said they should not call him Father Arnold Van Hoven. He picked one of the native names of the Manulan and said he should be called or identified as Father Ojong Ojong. So he used to call it that. My name now Father Ojong Ojong. So if I come for your village and they talk now, say I be Ojong and you go understand me. So that's how he got to the people. He identified them himself with the locals. And when any place that you go, I'm a scientist. When we go to a place to do research, if you don't identify with the local, you cannot achieve your objective. So they identify themselves. When you identify yourself with the people, they can open up and tell you so many other things that will facilitate or make your work lighter. So I want to believe that they were coming, they were already conscious of that fact. And they try to be very close to them. The few that we met, that at our age we met, they did a lot of things that was common with us. I remember Father Stockman would come and sit at the seashore when we are playing football in Cali school. But I was just playing football. Come and just say, I want for being a goalkeeper. I want for being a goalkeeper. So it makes you feel that, hey, Father is coming to us. So for me, I think that they found out something or they discovered something in the local people that they could identify with them. That will make their mission successful, because they had in their mind a mindset of succeeding at all costs to make sure that where they are going, the people receive them and then receive their message and turn away from their typical African traditional religion to embrace their own religion that they have brought.
I think that Mr. Elvis, dear Father Aka, I think that is a practical reality which I've observed with one of the priests in the diocese. He works here. He's in charge of programs. Father Alphonse Wongebe Fonyoy. When he came to Bomaka, Bomaka is mostly inhabited by the Bangwa people. So all of them were eager to know where he was coming from. And I think with the guidance of the Holy Spirit, one mama heard his hand and asked him, "Who's how you come out?" So he told the mama, "I be Bangwa Peking." And then at that point, say, "What's your name?" Told the mama, "I am Mami. My name is Temken Alphonse." Then the mother tried now to speak in the vernacular, the Alele, and then he answered. He spoke another one easier. He answered. Then the third now was a bit difficult for him. Say, "Mami, me I grown up for course, so I know if he really talk on the talk fine." So in Bomakana, most often we call him Father Temken Alphonse. When he got to Bokwango, there was working under Father Stephen. There is a town occupied by the Bakuri people. Now you hear him saying that his name is Kema Afonje. So I think that it goes in line with what you are saying, because once these people get that this is their own, they are able to go closer to him, and that message is easily passed. So I think that it's some kind of a strategy that you get closer to the people in order to get their attention, so that you can pass on your message. I think that was very wise for those priests in those days, which of course should be encouraged in modern times.
Yeah, Mr. Bate, you see the Maximum Elite, I would like to quote this document because it was a new document written by Benedict XV, one of the best documents, because he was a pope during the wars, and especially the First World War, and he understood what the war did, the harm that the war did on missionary work, and he made it very clear that the church is not an intruder in any culture.
Of course.
Now, if the church is not an intruder in any culture, can you balance the fact that a priest tries to identify himself with a culture, at the same time maintaining his identity and dignity as a priest? We must learn how to draw the line. Yeah. So yes, what do you think? Can you bring out any aspect to show that you are a priest, you are identifying with the people, but at the same time, with them you are a Christian, and for them you are
Yeah,
their priest.
Well, I think that aspect for me is not a problem, because it simply underlines what Scripture says in the book of Hebrews, that a priest is picked from among the people.
Hebrews chapter 5 verse 1.
So if you are picked from the people first, you are among them.
Yeah.
There are certain qualities that those people have, certain characteristics that they have, that you must go back to identify them.
with them.
But you are to recall again that you are with them to pray for them. So which means you cut off, to pray you must cut off or detach to create that time to pray, so that the Holy Spirit can listen to you well. So as a priest, you identify with the people, the culture of the people, but not forgetting your priestly line, that you are a priest and you stand up high to make sure that they can see you. I think in this book by Ken John Jombam, the White Man of God,
yeah.
the character, the writer, beg your pardon, of that novel tries to say that the white man culture has come. It identifies with the culture of the Saul man, but the few Saul boys at that time who want to follow the white man culture should not forget their origin, that they are from Saul land. And so I think that what in advice to our brothers, our friends who are priests, is that when you are sent to any place, I know of priests that have passed in some areas, like I don't like to cite names, but go there, they identify first with the people. There are some priests in this diocese today that were working in a cock. They took the name of Obasi, Otang, and they struggle to speak in the dialect. And then again, another way that you can identify with them is when you sing songs of the vernacular from that area. Like I remember in the early days, priests, after reading the gospel, they'll take the lectionary and they sing in the dialect, Nchorobasi, Areketu, all those things. The people say, hey, Father, they sing our country song. It means that Father is among us. And I think that at a certain level, you are comforted. We should not forget or lose sight that when the work of this missionary priests was not easy, the Mihili fathers, there was a time that they were sleeping, the black man would send terrible animals like snakes, scorpions, to go and bite them because they are disturbing their culture. And in order to survive, you need to identify, because when you identify, you are with them. I don't think they'll harm you. So identifying with a culture is not a problem, but you should not be drowned into the culture. I think there's also a document that talks of enculturation.
Of course.
Enculturation.
Of course.
Taking some certain aspects of the culture
that is
into
the church.
And then making the people feel that they belong. That's why we have traditional hymns, we have songs and gestures like lectionary processions that we do in our dialect, in our culture, and we show that we still glorify and make God supreme.
That's right. And you see in Luke chapter 10 verses 1 to 24, Jesus, sending out the 72 disciples, instructed them that whatsoever house you enter, eat what is served before you. Heal the sick. Stay there. Don't move from house to house. I think that was the origin of a missionary work, and the instructions already were given by Christ himself, the author of the church. And Mr. Cliff Awa, looking at the institutions and the structures established by the Mihi missionaries. You know, the first ever Mihi missionaries to arrive Cameroon was under Monsignor Camplin. Yeah. And when Camplin came, his mission ended in Cameroon. He was replaced by Peter Rogan.
Of course.
After Peter Rogan, we have Jos Peters. After Jos Peters, now we have Pius Awa. And of course, Emmanuel Bushu and Mike Bibi, who is now the present bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Boya. Now, looking at the structures of the Mihi missionaries, especially the St. Joseph College in Sase. People may say and say that they say that St. Joseph College Sase. No, it's St. Joseph College in Sase. Yeah, it is in Sase. So people just say I'm schooling in Sase. You are schooling in St. Joseph College in that Sase. So when we talk about Sase, people just think of that college because of course it's the first college built in 1939. Yeah. What do you make of the socio-economic development introduced by the missionaries?
Father Cletus, I think that the church, like I always say, the church forms man holistically. the church is not concerned only about the
spiritual.
The spiritual.
Yeah.
And that is why we enumerated schools, hospitals, amongst others, from primary up to secondary up to high school, that these people meet. First of all, remember that Cameroonians at that time were not English speakers. So in the course of opening these schools, they brought in the social development of these people. They were now able to learn a new language, which was a language that could easily be used for interactions and other business purposes across the continent and the world. So therefore, the socio-economic development is very paramount, especially with the establishment of these schools, the schools in particular, because they say school is the road to the heart. Yes, education of the heart is education of the heart. And so once these people were educated, it means that they were fit to go into the society at any level. Look at the other time we mentioned people in Cameroon who passed through St. Joseph College in Sase. We had the likes of Peter Mafani Musonge, who had been one time Prime Minister of this country. We had Prime Minister Ephraim Inoni. We also had late Bishop Pius Awa, who also schooled in that community. And so therefore, it created a lot of impact. A lot of others who are business people, business magnates in the world today from Cameroon went to that school. The St. Joseph, you remember you have the Sobans. You can remember the effect or the effect of the Sobans around the world. The Sobans have their groups almost everywhere around the world, and they are creating impact not only socially but also in the socio-economic domains, because back there most of them in America, United Kingdom, Canada and so on, they are making financial contributions to support the diocese and why not that particular institutions. So I think that we cannot overemphasize the socio-economic development of the Mihill priests during their reign, especially with the creation of this St. Joseph College in Sase.
Thank
the
you.
Impacts are enormous.
Thank you, Mr. Cliff. Mr. Pate, many people are of the opinion that the missionaries spoiled us because they gave to us. They did not teach us how to give. Do you hold this fact with him? Because many people say they came here, they were building for us, they were doing this for us, but now the church now is left in the hands of the indigenes and they cannot do anything to support the church.
Well, I think that after, if my information is not distorted, after the celebration of the centenary of the Catholic Church in 1990, the council, the synod started reflecting on the sustainability of the church in Africa. Yeah. We started looking at means from which we can survive that. Henceforth, I remember the priest announced that henceforth, aid will no longer come from Rome. In the early days, like we just ordained the number of priests a few months or weeks behind, Rome would have calculated that, okay, Boya is ordaining six or seven priests. So 7 cars will be sent from Rome. And the early days, it used to be that when you are being, the church had a contract. Rome had Vatican had a contract between Mitsubishi and Suzuki. So we know that a brand new Mitsubishi will come or a brand new Suzuki will come. Well, there used to be a Suzuki Jeep, which is, I think the last missionary that used it in these days was for Pete Harrington, a white Jeep like that. So, to say that they left us as orphans, I don't really share that idea, because they left, but before now, the church thought it wise. Because when the bishop went for their synod and told them that, okay, we will not be supporting you. You try to learn how to be sustainable. And I think that's why now many parishes now many dioceses have to devise means of sustaining the church. It is true that today there are many financial contributions or involvement with Christians, but the church is still growing. The dioceses are looking for means to sustain the faith. And the Pope has once said that the church cannot run all on Hail Marys. We must do some sacrifice to sustain it. So even though we are crying that it's difficult, but we are still saying that the little we have, it's a commitment as a Christian, because God already told you in Scripture that come and give me 10% of what you make each year. So if you calculate at 10%, you can share it among the number of Sundays and the number of other offertories, and then you can also include your 10% to giving out to other persons that might be in need. So they did not actually leave us in like orphans, because they taught us so many things. Farming and the rest. And I think that with the vast land that some of our dioceses have, if we go into agriculture, which is the backbone of most economies today, we will not have problems. Remember, they came when they opened Ikasa, the parish in Ikasa. They realized that the people of Ikasa will not be able to sustain the parish. What did they do? They opened a very vast palm plantation of about 75 hectares. That is huge money. That if the church handles it well, the proceeds are. I remember that if I'm not making a mistake, that farm is a major shareholder to Pamolobe Estate. So it's. I don't think they left us as orphans. They taught us how to farm coffee, which there used to be coffee in Sase village, but because when the price of coffee fell, many people cut those things.
Yeah.
You go to St. Joseph College Sase today, you see remnants of those coffee that the Mihi fathers taught us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elvis Bate. We have some comments here from our Facebook page. Good evening, Father Aka and the crew. Your program is so enriching. Thank you for educating us about church history. This is coming in from Madame Alechia Berenice from Mutengene. Thank you very much, Madame Berenice. And dear viewers, if you are just tuning in, we are on to the program Understanding Church History. And the topic for today is the Mihi missionary and the missionaries and the development or evangelization of British Southern West Cameroon. Moving on, Mr. Cliff Awa, you happen to have seen some of our Mihi fathers before the last one who died in Mutengene and was buried in Mutengene. Looking at the transition from the Mihi missionaries to the indigenous priest, the formation of the local clergy, of course, with the coming of the St. Thomas Aquinas Major Seminary in Bambui. Do you think the Mihi missionaries contributed to the establishment of this wonderful institution, the St. Thomas Aquinas Major Seminary in Bambui?
Of course, Father Cletus, worthy of note is the fact that before we get into that point, I want us to look at it. We made a statement here that the Mihils were ready to make sure that they leave a people who evangelize themselves. And of course, they had to make everything possible. Don't forget that when they started, they were only them. So they had to go into this process of formation, educating people, and then starting the process of formation. And up till on June 24th, 1949, the first priest was ordained, whom we know as Father Alois Ballon, was ordained. And then by 1960, other 6 were added to his number, making about 7. Then now, what is more interesting here is that on the 29th of January 1973, late Bishop Pius Uawa was consecrated bishop in the first diocese of Boya that was created 1950. And on the 30th of May, same 1973, Archbishop Paul Vesekov was given the newly created Bamenda. And so, during their discussions in the consecration of the minor seminary here, there was that need, because the Cameroons at this time had already obtained their independence. We must also bear in mind that prior to this period, Cameroon was a suffragan see in the diocese of Onitsha, Enugu Onitsha. So when these events happened, Cameroon had gained independence. Bishop Rogan Pius Suawa and the Prophet Zekov sat together, and these two indigenous priests, these two indigenous bishops, told Bishop Rogan that it is time for them to own their own training ground or formation ground in their own country, since Cameroon now has become one. By 1961, Cameroon had already become one, by the English Southern Cameroon joining the French Cameroon. So Bishop Rogan did everything possible and wrote the application to Rome at that time that it is good for these people to have their own formation center in the country. And that was how the St. Thomas Aquinas Major Seminary came about. I think that this Mihil priest did a lot of work, and they set the ball rolling, they set the pace for the people to emulate. So therefore, with the assistance of Bishop Rogan, today we have this St. Thomas Aquinas Major Seminary. And from that time onwards, you see that the hierarchy of the church in Bamenda Ecclesiastical Province has continued to grow with the emergence of more dioceses, especially cutting off from the mother of all the dioceses in Cameroon, the Diocese of Buea, created in 1950. You have today, you have the likes of Mamfi, you have the like of Kumba, you have and so on. And so therefore, the Mihil missionaries did not leave the people of Cameroon empty-handed. They did their utmost best to make sure that there is a formation ground to train indigenous priests, so that at their retiring or retirement from the country, the people will be able to have their own way of formation with the universal way of forming priests, so that there will never be a time in Cameroon again which shall be called the priestless years, Father Cletus. I think that is a little we can add as far as that area is concerned. They did their best to open the major seminary, Bambui, popularly known as TAMS, which today has trained a lot of priests, not only in Cameroon, but other parts of Africa, who are flocking into the country to study or to be formed as priests, to go and serve back to their own dioceses and in their countries, Father Cletus.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Cliff Hour. We shall have a minute of break. When we come back, we shall continue with the program.
Ex Maria Virgine et homo factus est.
Crucifixus etiam pro nobis, sub Pontio Pilato, passus et sepultus
Et resurrexit tertia die, secundum scripturas.
et ascendit in caelum, sedet ad dexteram Patri,
Et iterum venturus est cum gloria, judicare vivos et mortuos, coius regni noerit finis.
et Spiritum Sanctum Dominum, et vivificantem, qui ex Patre Filioque procedit.
Qui cum Patre.
Welcome back, dear TV friend. If you are just tuning in, we are on to the program Understanding Church History, and the topic for today is the Mihi missionaries and the evangelization of British Southern West Cameroon. We have a question here, and it goes thus: how Bishop Rogan College came as a minor seminary. I think Mr. Bate, you are in the right position to answer this question. How the coming of Bishop Rogan Minor Seminary, that we have today? What is the advent of this college?
Okay, like Mr. Cliff Hour already said, the Father Pius Hour and Father Paul Vezekov discussed with Bishop Jules Peter Rogan that now you soon leave. We want to get the church in our own hands and train our own priests. The Bishop Peter Rogan was hesitant to grant them that wish. So after deliberation and discussion, they resolved to start from the minor seminary. So the Bishop Rogan Minor Seminary came into play in September 1964 when they admitted the first batch of students, and the students who were admitted in that year include George Kevin Bayo, Michael Niba, George Kevin Bayo, I beg your pardon, Michael Yu, Evaristo Yufanyi, Patrick Chua. And after this first batch, the batch that came later on had the following: Monsignor Patrick Lafont, blessed memory; William Neba, Father John Ambe, Father Polycarp Fonja of blessed memory; Benedict Ekang, and Peter Manikap. Now they were admitted in 1964 to start Form 1. Yeah. When they got to Form 5, that was in 1969. They were supposed to have finished the minor seminary formation and then proceed to Nigeria to begin the major seminary formation. But they could not go because the civil war in Nigeria broke up and they stayed behind. So the batch of 1966 of Bishop Rogan students completed also Form 5 in 1971. Then, looking at these students who finished in 1969 and those in 1971, well, what would they do with them? So they decided now to introduce lower seat form in Bishop Rogan Minor Seminary in 1971, and that in all those who had finished the Form 5 with these other ones came in now. This other one came and joined, and these were Joseph Akem, John Bintum, Richard Dinga, Peter Ewan, Stephen Tanyi, Decima Okori, Monsignor Galame, William Teze, Father Moses Tazo, Joseph Varanso, and Anthony Vibar, Richard Dinga, Peter Ewan. All these were the first set of students who now finished Bishop Rogan College, and then when the civil war in Nigeria subsided, they now proceeded their major seminary formation. So Bishop Rogan came as a result of the request of blessed memory Bishop Emeritus of blessed memory Pius Suawa and Bishop Emeritus of blessed memory Paul Vezekov, who thought that they have had enough training from the missionaries. So they think that they can now start the formation of indigenous priests. But due to his ingenuity, I'm sure inspiration from the Holy Spirit, Bishop Peter Rogan was hesitant and decided that no, let's try and see first. Maybe if they start from minor, we see how the minor is progressing, then we can now give right to Rome to give us the major. So that's how Bishop Rogan now came into play in 1964, and by September, like I said, September 1964, the first set of students set their legs in the soil of Bishop Rogan Minor Seminary.
Thank you very much. I remember the civil war in Nigeria, which broke out in the northern part of Nigeria between Ojukwu and Gwan. Yeah, those two people were fighting. You know, Ojukwu was the president of Nigeria at that time. Then Gwan was the governor. So Ojukwu dismissed Gwan, and Gwan also dismissed Ojukwu. So it was a civil war, and you know that civil war really affected British Southern Cameroon, because you know British Southern Cameroon was administered as an integral part of Nigeria.
Of course.
Yes, and most of our elites that we have in the Lay, J.M. Foncha, S.T. Muna, N.N. Bile, and E.T. Egbe, all those people, all those Southern Cameroonians, historians, they all studied in Nigeria. And during that time, we had the Clifford Constitution, and the Macpherson Constitution and the Richards Constitution. These various constitutions, Macpherson gave us 13 seats in Nigeria, Clifford 2 seats, and Richard 1 seat. So it made Southern Cameroonians to sit in Nigeria as we call them like a governor. Like they just say that they representative, Southern Cameroonian representative in Nigeria. Yeah. So with the civil war that break out, most of our elite joined Ojukwu, some joined Guan. And it's a whole big topic in the Cameroon history. You cannot separate Cameroon history from church history because it's all together. Going back to going back to French Cameroon. In May 1957, when André Marin Bida was elected as the first premier of French Cameroon, and we heard that he worked just for 8 months because he did not respect the Catholic Church. And through the Catholic Church, Jean Ramadier was sent from French Cameroon to mastermind his fall, and he ruled there for 8 months. The Catholic Church has always been very influential. Very influential, and the Catholic Church is a country.
Of course, it's a country.
Vatican City is a state.
That's why the Vatican has ambassadors in all countries in the world.
The Holy Father is a president, and that is why when the church came to Cameroon, the Catholic Church had to sign a concordat with the Cameroon government. That is why you have this Ascension Thursday is a public holiday, Good Friday, and most of these solemnities that are of public holiday. It is an agreement between the church and the state. And the church works according to the canon law, and the state works according to its penal code and so on. So, and that is why the church cannot penetrate into the code of canon law, and the canon law cannot penetrate into the penal code of the state. That is why a priest is like, I cannot listen to a confession of a thief, then the state asks me to tell them about the condition. No, the canon law forbids me from telling them that, and the state understands all that. So, dear viewers of DMRO TV, thank you so much for watching this program. Next week we shall continue with this particular topic. We shall dive in now into the St. Thomas Aquinas Major Seminary in Bambui, how she has trained indigenous priests, and they are spreading the gospel everywhere in America, in Europe, in Africa, why not in Asia? So, Mr. Bate, thank you for coming, and last word for our viewers.
Well, my last word for the viewers is that when I sit in church, I hear the offer masses. This program will help our Christians now to offer masses for the lives of the Mihi fathers who sacrificed to sow the seed of the gospel in this part of Cameroon. Because if the Mihi fathers had refused the request of that they made to come and sow the seed here, then I don't know what would have been said. Maybe the whole of Cameroon would have been taken over by Joseph Merrick and his team that came. But the Mihi missionaries accepted with joy and decided to come and plant Catholicism. So we should, in our local churches, we should always pay tribute to the work of these fathers who brought the seed of the Catholicism in Cameroon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bate. Mr. Cliff Hour.
Yes, Father Aka, I think that first of all, we must go back to appreciating the efforts of the Palatine missionaries, the Palatine fathers who started the deposit of faith, and also to our catechists, especially Sango Matthias FM in our diocese. That is, we are talking today about the 75th anniversary. He was amongst those highly recommended or powerful catechists who kept on the faith with others. Like I always say, when Shahanan came in from Nigeria, he said Catholicism is still alive in Cameroon, thanks to the catechists. So we must thank them. If not, it would have been very difficult for the Mihil missionaries to have laid the train that they're having today. And of course, we regret the priestless years, because the effect too was felt, the priestless years in Cameroon. But that notwithstanding, God did his work through the catechist. And today, of course, I'm not sure till the world ends we'll ever have years without priest again in this part of the diocese. Thanks to the Mihil fathers who gave up themselves, especially Father Herbert Vaughan, who championed that team that came to Cameroon. I think it's a wonderful thing. Of course, we are all beneficiaries to their work, and therefore we must continue to remember them and pray for them while emulating that spirit to keep the faith alive, active, and then carry it to others too. Thank you very much for that, Cletus.
Yeah, you mentioned something and it kept me thinking, talking about legends like Katakis Matthias Sango Effiong. I think in the context of this 75th anniversary, I think we can visit his tomb.
Of course.
Yes, it's a kind of I think it's a kind of a pilgrimage, because these are people. I remember what he says when the missionaries arrived at Cameroon in 1920. He says, the Palatines, while leaving Cameroon, gave me the keys of the church of Bojongo. They told me to marry the church, and I have done so. Here are the keys. These are people who were trained and they gave up their life for the sake of this mission, this church we are enjoying here today. And I was telling the Christians of Woyamavio today that when you study church history, you cannot see bad days, but you see bad dead days, because the church is built on the blood of the martyrs.
Tertullian.
Yeah, Tertullian says that. And you go back to the early century, you see how people gave up their life for this Christianity we're having today. Look at St. Polycarp of Sermna, the bishop of Sermna. The man was 86 years old. When they came to kill him, he told them that no. They said, the bishop, run away. He said, no, I'm not going anywhere. For the past 86 years, Jesus has been faithful to me. Just for a day, I would not be unfaithful to him. And he went with them. And they wanted to bind him. He says, no, I have discussed with Jesus. I will give up my life for Christ. He laid in the fire. This side got burned. He turned the other side and he was singing praises to God. And when the church heard, there was revival. There is revival in martyrdom.
Of course.
These missionaries, they are our martyrs. Let us venerate them. Let us thank them. Thank you very much, Mr. Elvis Bate. Thank you very much, Mr. Cliff Awa.
Sure.
Thank you very much, our fervent viewers of DMRO TV, and especially those of Understanding Church History. Behind the camera, we have Kindness and Jesse, and technical support came in from Father Alphonse Wongibe, our deputy station manager in charge of programs, and general supervision came in from Joyce Mbong, the station manager, and of course the overall supervision came in from His Excellency Michael Bibi, Bishop of the Diocese of Boya. Thank you very much, and may God bless you and have a wonderful night.
Venturus est cum gloria, judicare vivos et mortuos, coius regni noerit finis.
Et Spiritum Sanctum Dominum, et vivificantem, qui ex Patre Filioque procedit.
Qui cum Patre et Filio simur adoratur, et cum glorificatur, qui locutus est per profetas.
Et unam sanctam catholicam, et apostolicam ecclesiam,
Confiteor unum baptismam in remissionem peccatorum,
et expector resurrectione mortuorum,
et vitam venturi seculi.